Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our personal stories of connection to that which is bigger than us in whatever way it shows up for you. We can share our mystical stories here, and maybe you'll get a little insight into somebody's journey that gives you a little light bulb for your own journey, a little, oh, that's right, that happened for me too, and that validation that we're on a journey, and the synchronicities are very powerful sometimes, and we can have great insights, and we can be very empowered by listening to other people's stories. So thank you for tuning in to Soul Nectar Show. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird. I love to take people on the first few steps or along the way in their journey as they're integrating awarenesses and this bigger picture of who they are, and really learning how to tune into that station, that unique divine station. I like to call the thumbprint. We all have a unique thumbprint. We're taking a unique journey, and we might cross a few points along the line where we understand what we're each talking about, and sometimes we don't understand anything about somebody's journey. But it's great to know that it's unique and it's yours, and that you can't possibly do it wrong. So welcome to the show. And today I'm really grateful to have my good friend here with us today that's going to talk a lot about conscious media. And we're going to be talking about how this media, when we have the news and all of this kind of stuff that's out there in the news, it can be really depressing the way that it's handled right now. And we can kind of feel like, what is all this negativity, and is this really helping us? And what would really serve our our humanity in terms of the media? So we're going to have a really great discussion. I'm so excited because we have Trina Wyatt with us. So welcome, Trina, to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Carrie. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So now Trina is really I don't know, a master or a guide of visual storytelling. And she believes that visual stories have the power to transform society. So she launched Conscious Good. Conscious Good is a community-driven media platform committed to elevating consciousness. And Conscious Good envisions a world where every being feels connected to themselves, to each other, and to something greater. And to fulfill on this vision, Conscious Good is raising awareness on the impact of what we watch has on our well-being, increasing access to conscious media, and supporting visual storytellers in their work through the Creators Network and your nonprofit organization, Conscious Goodness. So it's interesting because Trina, her most notable career achievement was launching the Tribeca Film Festival for Robert De Niro. How cool is that? And taking on the reins as the first festival director. I know I'm personally very intrigued by that. I know we've kind of gotten launched off into other discussions privately that are, our passions, but this is very fascinating. And Trina's also held leadership positions with entertainment companies such as Gaia, those of you who tune into Gaia, and Prana Studios, Intrepid Pictures, Without a Box, Film Independent, Turner Pictures, and Carolco Pictures. And so this is really great. So thank you for being with us. You've got quite an impressive journey that you've taken. Oh my goodness. I'm like so glad to be connected with you, just because anyway, I feel like you're a sister. So start us off, like introduce us to Trina. Like, how did you get started with all this coolness that you've done in your life?
Yes, I've been very blessed. Well, when I was about in grade school, I saw this film, Bugsy Malone, and I saw it 3 times. I just fell in love with the movies, and I realized it was because movies could change the way I felt and how I saw the world. And, cut to 6th grade, I had to write a term paper on anything that I found of interest. And my term paper was the business of the motion picture industry. So from grade school, I had it in my mind I was going to move to Los Angeles and work in the film industry.
So that's amazing.
It is, because I was also one of those people who felt like lost a lot in life. So, to have a strong sense of direction at an early age, it wavered at times, for sure. But the other thing, as my love of movies grew, my love of personal growth and spiritual exploration also grew. So I was born into a Mormon household, so large family. My aunts and uncles on both sides, all Mormons everywhere, except my parents. My mom discovered women's lib. My dad discovered marathon running, and by the time I was about 12, they said, "We're not going to church anymore. We can take you if you want to go." And they said, "But you should. We encourage you to find your own path." And so, which is really unusual for Mormons, but that's what I did. And so I went through the gamut of, agnostic, atheist, and then I discovered yoga and meditation.
That's a doorway. I've gone through that doorway. Okay.
Right, exactly. And Buddhism and, Sikhism and all these wonderful, spiritual philosophies. So that has, taken me, I would say I'm always in exploration, but I have a very strong personal practice that really, I solidified about 6 years ago. But I know you want to talk about the Tribeca Film Festival.
I do. I'm so interested by that.
Well, it is interesting. So when I was in high school, my very first job was working at a retail shop for a couple of women entrepreneurs. And as I was applying to college, my dad sat me down and said, "What do you think you may want to do in life? Like, how are you going to make a living for yourself?" And I said, "I want to run my own business, Dad." And he's like, "Well, that's a great idea." He said, "Why don't you study accounting like your older sister? Because if you want to have a successful business, you're going to need to know the numbers." And, I was a pleaser and I did pretty well in any subject at school. So I was like, okay, accounting, sure. I'm going to go ahead and, run that business. So, went to UCLA and graduated and went into public accounting, was absolutely miserable. And I decided that, I was going to get my CPA and then get out and work in the film business. So that's what I did. And I ended up working at a film studio, Turner Pictures, that, Ted Turner owned and Amy Pascal ran. And I was just a bean counter, really. Like, I thought I was going to have exposure to every aspect of filmmaking and the studio system and all of this. And nobody wanted to let the suit into the meetings and, very much labeled uncreative. And so I just one day decided I'm going to work in film production. Like, I'm tired of having my nose pressed up against the glass of the candy store and, seeing everybody else enjoying themselves. So I quit that great job and I moved to New York and worked on a couple of film sets. And I said, I'm not ready to leave New York, but I don't know really what to do. And a friend of mine said, "My friend down at Tribeca is looking for somebody with your skill set. Why don't you guys have lunch?" So I did, and that was the CFO of Tribeca. And I went through this whole interview process and I got hired. And immediately they said, "There's a change of plans. You're not going to report to the CFO. We need you to be the CFO." And I was all of like 28 years old.
Oh my goodness, that is a huge change.
A huge change. So I went for it, and I was there for a few years, really like in their COO, CFO capacity, business strategy, like how do we build this brand? How do we optimize the businesses that we're currently running? Okay, let's sell off this partnership. Let's focus here. And it was under sort of that role and responsibility that I was asked, what would you do to build Tribeca's brand? And I said, well, I think the thing we should do is a film festival. And so I was asked to pitch the idea to De Niro, and I got the green light to move forward. And that was in actually March of 2001. And I started building out the business plan and looking for venues and partners and staff and all of that. And then September 11th happened. And we were obviously just devastated and thrown off course. And I then went back to my boss and said, this is now what we need to be doing more than ever, because we need something to celebrate Lower Manhattan and bring us all together and heal from this experience and, you know, have our eye on something greater. So that's how it got launched. And I said to my boss at the time, Jane, who's De Niro's partner, I said, Jane, you haven't met with a single person that I've recommended to run the film festival. I don't understand. She said, well, you're just going to have to do it.
Oh, great.
Said, but I have a job. So yeah, that's how all of that came about. So, and I launched the film festival, and as you know, it was a big success. And for me, the driving force behind the festival was helping people, you know, helping people, helping ourselves. And that's why I was able to just put everything into it and work the long hours. So I've always had that kind of inside me to drive my actions. But there was a lot of people, you know, that came in from Hollywood who were very much, you know, ego driven and lacked integrity. And I really was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't think I can work with, you know, this Hollywood community. And I had just finished getting my MBA. And I thought, I'm moving back to California, newly married. What do I do besides film? It's the only thing since I was, you know, in grade school I wanted to do. And I thought about this catalog that I loved called Living Arts Catalog, because I was so into yoga and meditation and all of that. And I researched it and found out it was owned by a company called Gaiam, and they had a video production space in, you know, West LA. And so I reached out to the head of Gaiam, and I just did the Tribeca Film Festival, right? So of course somebody calls me, and I ended up sitting down with the founder and CEO of Gaiam, and he said, look, I want to create a new genre of film, the inspirational film. Are you interested in helping me? And I said, absolutely, absolutely. So this was over 16 years ago. So the path to, you know, bringing together my love of spiritual exploration, my yoga and meditation practice, and, you know, my love of film and visual stories and you know, that medium, it's taken years, really, really years. But, you know, at the end of the day, what I really felt was I wanted to be able to watch film, TV shows, media, and feel that it reinforced my practice and made me a better person, instead of, you know, causing me fear and anxiety and feeding in, you know, all of those lower chakra, you know, low vibration. It was like, I want to go to one place where I know that everything that I watch is quality, and it's going to, you know, raise the vibration, not only for myself, but for the rest of the planet. So that's how Conscious Good came about.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love that whole story. As you were talking about your experience with the film festival, you know, it started off as a way to build the brand, and then 9/11 happened, and you were like, no, now this is really about uplifting people. It's like in that moment, that gave you that opportunity to change your own focus on why it is that you were doing what you were doing to begin with. It feels like that was a big catalyst for you on your journey.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to articulate that. I have chills, really, tears.
I was getting tears
God.
when you were
Yeah.
yeah. You know, when that happened, I remember being on the West Coast, and my mom was calling me to wake me up. And I'm like, why are you calling me? She's like, there's something terrible happening. Look at the television. And you know, I remember thinking, here I have this little boy, you know, who's just like 1.5. And I'm thinking to myself, do I even want to have any more kids? You know, like, if this is the way the world's going to be. And I could feel myself going into that slide in the days after. But then there was something in me that rallied and was like, no, I'm not going to let this be the world I live in. And similarly, like, I was in a different space than you, but in my community, I started this project with some other neighbors who felt the same way. We actually did this huge fundraiser. We did this big chili cook-off for the firefighters in New York City, and We made a big quilt. Everybody contributed like a square to the quilt that had a positive message for the survivors and people in New York. And we really wanted them to know we were thinking about them. And it's hanging somewhere in New York right now in some some fire department. But you know,
Beautiful.
it was really it was like this inner calling. I felt like when you were talking about that, I felt that same thing, that inner calling, like this can't be how it ends. This can't be, like, we've got to take this experience, which is horrible, but turn it into something good. Like, we've got to take it and turn it into wisdom, into something that's uplifted. So I feel like that's in line with what you're doing with Conscious Good. It's like you're not trying to
Absolutely.
ignore that there's bad things happening in the world or things that are difficult or challenging, or, you know, but it's not to avoid that. We're not sidestepping it. It's just like you also don't need to like be on the news, like cycling it over and over and over and over again in the worst possible way with like no empathy. It's like we're saying terrible things happen, and we can transform it through how we tell the story about the thing, and we can bring it down into our heart. We can bring it into a place of empathy. We can create good in the world from that thing, and we don't have to be in a space of just, you know, sort of broadcasting the terrible thing over and over and over and over and over again with like with no way for people to process that. At some point it's numbing.
That's right. Absolutely. It, so I was on 10th Street and 5th Avenue. That's where I lived on the morning of September 11th. And I was walking to work as both buildings fell. And I found out that a friend of mine and his friend died in one of the towers. And we were under quarantine or lockdown. I don't know, one of the words, but we couldn't go north of 14th Street and we couldn't go south of Canal, and none of the businesses were open. So I spent a lot of time in the parks with the community. And it was the most beautiful, healing experience. It was, you know, people writing, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Like, let's all come together. You know, the people that were most impacted, with friends who were, you know, didn't survive and were right there, had the most loving, wonderful, you know, spiritual connection. And I remember reading the letter from Berlin in, you know, the New York Times, the Berlin people, our hearts are with you, New York. And it was just this incredible time to be there. And then we went into Iraq. And we were just felt so betrayed, right? We're like, wow, we had all this outpouring of love and compassion and empathy from this tragic event, and now it's being exploited, and people aren't pointing that out. You know, it was like it was such a betrayal, honestly, on so many levels. And but you're absolutely right. Getting back to the Tribeca Film Festival, to be able to channel all of our energy and keep that healing energy in Lower Manhattan, and realize we're coming together to do something, create something bigger than ourselves, that's, you know, healing, you know, this city and maybe the world in ways we could never imagine. And I think that is, to me, why it was so magical creating the Tribeca Film Festival. It's not, you know, working with Robert De Niro, although he's great, and, you know, it's not like hobnobbing with all the celebrities and, you know, these really great films and parties. It was really, wow, look what arose from the ashes.
Yeah,
look what we could do.
Look what we could do. And I love that you said what you said about it was a betrayal, because what happened after 9/11 and after the initial outpouring of love, you know, like I was part of that on my West Coast project, right? Like there were communities all across the nation that were doing similar things because we just felt we had to do something.
Yes.
That's going to make me want to cry.
I have to tell you, every September 11th, you know, even though it's been all these years, I'm a mess. I'm an absolute mess. It all just comes back when I see the images and the quotes. And there's still so much healing we need to do, obviously, in this country and as people.
Well, I mean, I've had friends who are sensitives that have gone to I have not gone to the site because I know how sensitive I am. And I think there's still a lot of energetic cleanup to do in that space. And it's not a space for me right now
Yes.
to be in that space. And I know that.
Yes.
And they've said it's just so powerful still. Like there's just the trauma in that location is just intense. And I think that what happened on the heels of that beautiful outpouring of love and generosity and like this opening in human consciousness and in the Western consciousness to be like, I'm going to just do something selflessly because I have to do something to let people know that I see this, I witness it, I care about you, I care about these people. Like that, just that beautiful gift. And then what do? We just like turned savage and wanted to go, hunt down the people that did it and like started this like endless war to what? To punish people, to find the people to punish. And has that made anything better? As a matter of fact, like we've lost more lives. We've had more people lose their loved ones. We've had people consumed by anger and rage, like and to the place where can't get political with it, but I feel like some people really hold on to that sort of attitude and let that rage and that anger and that hatred just consume them to the place where that's all that they can see.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
called, my family members that are more militaristic in thinking, they're just like, well, you wouldn't even have all those freedoms if it wasn't for, our military doing this, that, and the other thing. So there's definitely different perspectives on this. But I mean, we could be covering the whole range of perspectives on the media and not just like one viewpoint over and over and over and over and over again.
Exactly. And this is what's exciting about, the streaming revolution, right? This over-the-top television streaming, which is where, conscious good is going and where we really want to hold the space. But, you can have like Rachel Maddow and you can have, Fox, and you can have other voices though, and other points of view that are shared and communities that are interacting around the content, which is really our goal at Conscious Good is to, and that's why we say community driven. It's what are the stories that interest you, Carrie? What do you want to see up on the big screen, the little screen? How can you support those visual storytellers? Or maybe you have a story to share. How do we help you get your story told and out to as wide an audience as possible? Because it is those variety of perspectives that we want to understand from the individual. So the most powerful visual stories are told from the individual perspective, where they go on a transformational journey that we can accompany them on in a safe way, right? We're a little bit removed. But these are the films that have, created so much change in the world, and I could go on and list them. But I think it's also important that we acknowledge the power that these stories have in influencing our lives, how we see the world, how we feel, right? Because if we don't acknowledge that, then we're we're kind of stuck in the mire with everyone else.
Well, it's just sort of like consuming toxicity. I mean,
yes,
from an energetic perspective, because I'm very, very sensitive, and like even me, I've gone to the gym. You know how when you go to the gym and they have the news on at the gym because people want to watch something on TV? And I'm like on my machine, I could feel, I don't have to even hear what it's saying. I don't need to know. I can feel the stream of toxicity pouring into the room.
Oh, wow. Yes.
It's like a flood of toxic energy pouring into the room whenever it's like the news broadcasts and they're debating and they're all hot and angry and, the information's coming out. It's really horrible, actually. And people don't realize that they're consuming that. They're actually consuming that, and no wonder they're angry and rageful.
Absolutely. I was looking at the science behind, because we all know that we feel it. We can tell when, that energy that you're feeling, it's real. But so many people need science. And so I was looking at different scientific studies, and one that I found, it was more behavioral science, that people who watched repeated videos of the Boston Marathon bombings suffered the same post-traumatic stress symptoms as the people who were actually in attendance at the bombings.
Yes, that's because your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and happening to you and what you're watching in a movie, which is why I get so concerned about the content of our films too.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
I took a break from seeing movies for like 8 months. It wasn't even that long, and it wasn't intentional. It was just I was so busy with my work that I didn't have time, to go to the movies. It was like 8 months, and I saw a movie that was in the same series as one that I had taken my kids 2 years before. Okay, in the same, like, it was another of the series, and I won't say what it was. I was in shock at the gruesome, violent displays in this movie since the last time I had seen a movie of this nature, which was like PG-13 I took my kids to. I was in shock, and people were just eating their popcorn, and I'm looking around the theater and I'm like, nobody thinks this is really awful? No, it's normal now.
This is where I go, it's like the emperor has no clothes. You're there ready to go, hey guys, this is awful. The emperor has no clothes. Do you understand what you've bought into? And you're numbing. It's a numbing of, it's a desensitization of the gore, of the violence, right? And you're made to feel like you're the abnormal one. You're not.
And not to say, before I was conscious, Trina, I watched things with my kids that I shouldn't have watched. Like, for sure I did.
Oh, we all have.
I was part of the same matrix, so I just was like, well, this is normal. This is the thing, and this is what my kid wants to watch. So and it just got progressive to the place where, because of my awakening, because of the spiritual work I was doing and the training I was doing, and I was elevating my frequency, and I was stopping eating so much sugar, I was changing my diet, and I was getting rid of a lot of the bad influences in my being. I started raising up my energy, and I started becoming like shocked that was part of my normal consciousness before. It's like it was a rude awakening. It was like, whoa. That is not normal.
It's not normal. And my hope and prayer is that more people follow in our footsteps, because the same thing happened to me. And that's kind of how I felt. It's like, well, can't we have like the Whole Foods of media? Not that Whole Foods is perfect, right? But I know I can go and have a decent chocolate chip cookie there, that maybe has lower sugar, hopefully, responsibly sourced, and feel a little better about indulging in a chocolate cookie. And I feel that way, about like conscious good. It's like, let's create this wonderful experience, mainstream experience, right? But we've put in the care and all the sort of research behind what we're getting behind and showing and featuring, so that you can just sit back and enjoy, because we still want to hear stories, right? Especially the stories that can shift our perspective and raise our vibration, for sure.
What you're really talking about is taking all the research that we know about human psychology, which we know a lot about by now. We know a lot about it, a lot more than we did when I was growing up, tons more. Take all that research into human psychology, and instead of using it to make a profit, we use it to make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
To improve our community and teach people. We can teach people empathy through the programming. Like I was talking with you about this. My brother actually works for a TV station as a news producer, and I'm not going to say which one, but he talked about the stress behind the scenes is that they have to, it's like the media has to find more gore, more terrible things. Like they actually are looking for that. Their perceptual lens is to find that stuff because that's what sells. That's what makes people tune in. And it would be great if newscasters and news companies and whoever's doing this media would say, you know what, we are going to decide as conscious producers of media to not influence human psychology that way, and to not do it for a profit. but to do something because it's the right thing to do to steer consciousness in a better direction.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I would also add that if we look at, like McDonald's and the menu of McDonald's from 20, even 10 years ago, right? And equate the McDonald's junk food that they get us hooked on, or they did, that we didn't know any better about. We ate it, we didn't know what it was doing to our bodies. Then we started realizing, hey, this stuff is not good for us. We can't eat it every day. And McDonald's had to start changing their menu. McDonald's started offering salad because they were a whole group of people just stopped stopped going to McDonald's. So this is what I really want to have happen as well. So, for Conscious Good, I want to raise awareness for the impact that what you watch has on your psyche and well-being. It doesn't mean we're not going to have guilty pleasures. It doesn't mean, I still maybe once a year like a McDonald's sundae, but I'm not eating it every day. And so, that's really where I'm hoping people get to the point of they can, like we're able to go, ooh, that doesn't feel good. Maybe I'm not tuning into that every day. Maybe that's something, hey, if I have to, or, if I have the right frame of mind when I'm consuming that kind of media, where I can look at it objectively and not let it derail, my point of view and who I am for the day. Great.
Yeah, and people need to be in on the know. It's sort of like an education campaign to help people realize, hey, when you see a smiling, laughing face on the television, and then like you're hearing about underneath the surface all the terrible things that are going to happen to your body when you consume that product, that's you're ignoring all of that information because you're seeing the pretty picture, and that you should know that that's a trick in your brain, and somebody learned how to manipulate your brain to get you to ignore that other information. Like, people need to know about how they're being manipulated
Yes.
psychologically by these big companies. They need to know
Yes.
that, and they need to know the health impact of watching an endless stream of hostile information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there was another study that I love referencing, because there's been a lot of studies over the last 20 years on the correlation between negative behavior and negative and violent media. So, 3 highly renowned national organizations have made that correlation. Nobody really talks about it. And then there's been studies about the positive correlations. So it has been proven that when we watch videos of people expressing empathy and kindness and generosity, that we are more compelled to behave in those ways as well. I had this beautiful story of a woman who was working on our humanitarian film festival. And she started watching all these films for the festival. And she said, Trina, you are not going to believe this. I went to my yoga class. There was a homeless man in a wheelchair at the door. People were annoyed going into yoga. They had to go around this guy. And if I hadn't watched all those videos, I probably would have been one of them. But I took a minute and I said, hey, do you need help? Is there someplace I can take you? It was like, yes.
Well, what you're saying, it's like it's modeling empathy.
Yes.
And we also talked about this because I mentioned my brother, and one of the things I want to talk to him about is, hey, what would it be like? This is just like what would it be like to be the frontier person, to do it different,
Yeah.
to model how to share a story that's terrible from the heart
Mm.
and from a balanced view. Like,
Yeah.
wow, this thing happened. We're so concerned about the family. This is, this is a tragedy, but also we wonder how the community can pull together, or, how are we going to frame it? Because we're always framing it anyway. So can we frame it in a way that gives people a way to engage it from their heart, rather than just have it be like, oh, one more example of how awful the world is, and then the brain goes, yep, the world's awful, and let me look for some more information about how the world is awful. Let me flip over to this news station, I'll get some more of it. Like, people are so disconnected from this barrage. I think we need to change it up.
Absolutely. I love that idea. you mentioned, how about, training these news reporters and broadcasters to understand, yes, you can tell that story, but here's a way that's more humanistic, that's more empathetic, that is going to do good in the world versus, instilling fear and desensitizing the world.
Yeah, exactly. Like distilling fear and desensitizing. We're already desensitized enough. I mean,
Yes.
Anyway, I could go on. I could launch off to a whole diatribe about that, but I won't. So, other people on my show have already heard my pitches about pills, not feeling pills and things like that. Because we got to feel it to heal it, and
Yes, that's
I'll
right.
say that we got to feel it to
Yes.
heal it. And so don't prevent people from feeling what they need to feel to heal. If people get upset from watching your news show that this happened again in their community, they might actually get activated to go take some action about it, or have a talk with their kids, or get together at their church, or gather at the school. Like if they get upset enough that this thing is happening because it's touching their heart, they might actually make a change. So
Yes.
you don't want to stop people from feeling this. You want them to
No.
get engaged and make a change. Like we don't get motivated to change unless we feel uncomfortable enough.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I watch a lot of different shows and films. People whether they are looking for help distributing or completing it, and I like to say that yes, show us the problem, show us the pain, but don't leave us there. Like,
Yes.
so like have a little bit of hope at the end. Tell us what we can do. You've got me so worked up around this issue. Don't leave me in that state.
And it better not be buy something.
Right, exactly.
Okay, like that is so cheap and done. We're done with that.
No, we are so done with that. No, it's here's what you can do. Here's something you can do on a big level, and here's what you can do on a small level. And I tell people one of the things you can do on a bit on, well, I think it has big ramifications, but it's something small, is actually go to the movie theater and buy a ticket. See some of these movies in the theater as they were made to be seen, because you're in community then. You're laughing and crying with the community around you. And hopefully you can have a conversation with either people that you've seen it with or people, in line at the bathroom, but you've had a shared experience. And, we need more opportunities to establish connection among us than disconnection. We're going down the path of disconnection very fast, and it's not helping us as a world.
Exactly. And I want to say technology is not the enemy either, because
No.
you and I are having technology right now. All of you are listening to the back play of this technology. And I know you feel me because you tell me afterwards, oh my gosh, Carrie, I felt your heart. I felt this. I made me cry. I did. So we are influencing you right now through this story, even though it's over technology, because we're showing up as full humans. Like Trina's showing up as a full human. I'm doing my best to show up as a full human. I got my big old heart here, but you can do the same thing. So it's not like, you're disconnected through technology. You just got to make the technology work for you, but you've got to do the work to open your heart, right, Trina? Like
Oh,
that's a personal
absolutely.
job.
It's a personal job, and here's where I feel it's exciting to be alive right now. So I've loved film and I've loved spiritual exploration, and now I'm committed to raising consciousness, and I can work in with my career background on a format that I love to help raise consciousness in the world. Same with technology. There are people out there going, hey, I'm an engineer, I do this. What can I do to raise consciousness on the planet? And everyone has this opportunity. You can design beautiful homes that raise the vibration. We all have an ability to make a contribution in elevating consciousness. Mine happens to be in film and media.
I love that you said that. And I also want to encourage people to, when you are working for a company and you are influencing others with a message or with a platform that you're leveraging human psychology to do, that please be conscious about how you do that and your intent behind doing it. Please elevate your own intention. And, if you're sort of planted in a company where things are sort of old school and it needs to be revamped, then if you're the one who spots it, then you get to be the one that speaks up about it and starts to make the change. Like, that's you because you see it.
Absolutely. It's very interesting having, come through the business world and, identifying as spiritual but not religious, and realizing that there needs to be a new way of doing business in the world, and, bringing in more of the feminine, and, having empathy, allowing feelings to enter into and encouragement and gratitude. This is something that, the carrot versus the stick. If you're a manager trying to get a performance, gratitude is the way to go. Positive reinforcement. But these are all things that haven't been, taught in business school, and they haven't been taught in larger companies. So I'm finding, my whole training was in this old paradigm, and we're entering into this new paradigm, and I'm having to figure it out. I'm having to make some mistakes and learn from them and kind of push the envelope. And but all of us that are, recognizing we can do things a different way. We have to do things a different way. We have to lead by example. We have to be the change we wish to see in the world in every aspect of our lives, even running a business, especially running a business.
Especially. And intention is a lot to do with it. So as you were talking about, I know we shared privately that that your intention with your company is that every aspect of your company is done consciously, not just the media, not just the outside of the company, but like the meetings, the way you treat people, your communications, yourself, your life as the founder of it. It's like it's all coming from a place of a willingness to be in integrity and to do your work.
Yes, absolutely. And I look at my daily practice, my meditation, yoga, my, running, those things that I do, that's for the company. That's for everybody. It's definitely for me, but I just don't show up the same way. In fact, one of the women that helped me start the Conscious Good would kind of laugh because I would be so much testier and reactive, and and I looked at her and I go, you can tell I didn't do my practice this morning, can't you?
It's so obvious, isn't it?
Yes. And that to me, people have said, how have you gotten through this, startup, chaos and challenge? And I said, it's the practice. The practice changed my life, got me back on the right path, and is keeping me on the path. And, I'm willing to give up a lot of things, but definitely not, my daily practice. So.
Absolutely necessary. That's a very strong message I get as well. Daily practice, work on yourself, heal yourself from the inside out. And as you do that, you can be a conscious force of good in the world. And so thank you for doing your personal work, Trina. How can people get started with knowing more about what you do and getting engaged with what you're doing? And what's their entry point for launching off with you?
Wonderful. So consciousgood.com, we have, wonderful short videos and series on there that you can log on and enjoy for free. We have a newsletter you can sign up for. It's what to watch, why, and where. So that's the best in conscious cinema, whether it's in the movie theater or streaming or, however it's available. And then if you're a creator, or if you have a story that you want to be telling and you want to be part of the conscious community of creators, we have a wonderful private group. So it's not, on some of the mass media behemoths where they sell your data. We do not do that, of course. We're doing this consciously. It's called the Creators Network, and you can get there through the Conscious Good website. But we have a lot of courses that we're offering starting in the new year, to help you, find your creativity, find your story, make your film. And then we have a lot of other, meetups and meditations online, all of that good stuff for people who want a deeper dive into conscious media.
That's beautiful. I love it. Perfect. Yeah, so I will have all those links down below for all of you down there, and you'll be able to get it in the show notes. So I really appreciate what you're doing in the world, Trina. It's powerful. I just am so impressed by your commitment and, you know, your dedication to walking the walk, like not just putting out a bunch of stuff that's like, oh, that's really nice. And on the surface, it looks wonderful. And underneath it's sort of rotting, but you're really committed to doing the work through and through. And I honor that in you.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you. I honor you and the work you're doing in the world. Thank you. So
Thank you.
important.
I know it's important. And let me tell you, it's not easy when you step on the path, but boy, it does lead to amazing outcomes. So it's worth all the steps that we keep stepping.
Yes.
Keep stepping, people.
Well said. Baby steps, right? Baby
keep
steps.
stepping. Just keep two-stepping, one-stepping, two-stepping. Do a little dance. Okay.
Yes.
So, well, this has been really informative and wonderful. And I really enjoyed our dialogue today. Thank you so much for your time. And everybody out there, please like and share the show out. It'll have the show notes for Conscious Good. It's a best way to help Trina, because then they can actually see her and interact with her in this broadcast and feel her heart and know what she's doing. So share this out, like, subscribe, and check out Conscious Good. And we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. I'm gonna give everybody kisses. Join me for kisses. Here they come. Love you, people. Love
so
you.
Much love. Sending out so much love.
So much love. See you next time on Soul Nectar.
Thanks, Carrie.